topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
You're listening to the ASQ podcast for a transformational approach to life and leadership, blending soul wisdom with modern insight to create outer impact.
All right. Well, welcome, Soul Questers, to another episode of the ASQ podcast live.
Yes, welcome. We're
How
excited.
are you today?
I'm good today.
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
Actually, it's been a good day today.
Awesome.
This is different for us today because it's just us.
Yeah, it's just us today.
We're solo.
We're solo. Yeah, no guests for today's episode, which is pretty cool. Actually, I think once in a while you need to do that. So, so in this episode, I mean, we really want to take a moment to recap our year.
Well, part of that is because we're approaching the holidays, and so every year on our podcast, what we've done is we've recapped the show, the year, our challenges, everything. So
and the holidays, when you get into late November, December, everything kind of like slows down for us. I mean, it's a perfect time to really start reflecting.
Yeah.
Right. On life and things of that nature. And this is one of the reasons why. When we use the PEP framework, perspective, experience, and philosophy, right, it allows us an opportunity to look at our lives in a different sense, right? So that idea of perspective and what these holidays do is really being able to step back, right? Being able to step back away from the immediacy of life.
Right. And
then when we pair that up with the cosmic perspective as to, the grandeur of the whole thing, what existence is, right? Life, right? and then you step through your experiences. You look at your experiences every year, and then you get the good stuff that you learn from it, right? Then that way, as you approach the beginning of the year, you have an approach, right? I'm not a big fan of New Year resolutions, right? I think that for me doesn't work. Right. How about you?
No, they don't work.
Yeah. So, what we like to do is just kind of like do that, create on the approach of what's the approach that we're going to take moving forward based on gaining broader perspective from our experiences. Right. So today we're going to talk about that from our personal point of view, like how, let's start with you.
Why don't you, is it maybe a good idea to talk about the PEP framework, just a very simple synopsis of it?
Sure.
People who are just tuning in now.
So a big part of our methodology and what we share is this idea of PEP, perspective, experience, philosophy, right? In our lives, right, we live in the immediacy. We live in our heads, right? So problems come in and we think that, oh my God, this is it.
We live in our own world.
We live in our own worlds, right? And I was looking at the analogy the other day. I was joking around because Dave Chappelle has his line, you can't see the elephant because of his blank, wrinkled skin. You got to step back.
You totally told me it was inappropriate to use that analogy the other day. You're using it now, live?
He says a word that I didn't say. I didn't say the word.
I didn't say the word either, and you totally called me out.
Yeah, I didn't say the word, but it's almost like if you look at a picture and you're too close to it, you really can't appreciate. All you're seeing is the cracks of the paint, but you can't see the whole thing, right? And that's what we do with our lives. With our lives is like we look at the immediacy of it all. We look at the here and now, and we stressed about, oh my God, the future. Oh my God, the past. Yeah. We focus on our aces and our experiences and all the negative stuff. And we're constantly anxious about the future. And we have a very little understanding of sometimes the necessity to broaden your gaze, right? Seeing more of the totality of life, right?
Yep.
The grandeur of it all. And when you look at it from that frame, time changes. in the big scheme of things, the pressure, the things that you feel are so overwhelming are only temporary.
Yeah.
These things come and go. And that's important to do that for a couple of points of views. One, when you step back and you look in different directions, you might have discovered something that you might have missed, right? So you discover something new. Two, it goes into the next thing, right? Which is experience. The more you learn about experiences, because the universe is it's an impartial thing, right? It's neither good nor bad. The universe does what it does, right? It's our perception of what's good and what's bad. But the idea is that we could learn from all that, right? It's every interaction, every experience. Like I always said, the story when I was a Boy Scout, Ken taught us that after every single activity, we had to figure out, what did I learn from this? It could be a movie, it could be going to wrestling, it could be going to the zoo. Everything was an opportunity to learn a different point of view.
Yeah, we definitely don't do that or take advantage of those moments.
Yeah, and then the last thing is, once you begin to catalyze those experiences and gain a broader perspective, now you could begin to create an approach on how you're going to move forward, and we use the word philosophy. And again, philosophy is not this idea of how to think, right? If and then, if then, this is not this formulaic way of being. If you look at philosophy, there's just different approaches on how to see life,
right,
and how to conduct ourselves in life. And most of them, if you really look at it, it's really an idea of finding meaning based on how we experience life. You could look at Nietzsche from that point of view. You could look at Foucault from that point of view. You could look at nihilism. You could look even at Stoicism from that point of view and how am I going to approach the uncertainty that is life, right? Yeah. But we don't get a time to think about things like that because, oh no, that's some professors up there that need to do this. That's not for us.
We also don't do that because we're too caught up in the ins and outs of our day. And I would, I had a conversation with somebody today, and one of the things that she said is that we just get so stuck in the, just going that you don't have a moment to pause.
Yeah.
Right. And so the PEP framework really is something that we're sharing with people because it requires you to step back.
Yep.
And reflect and take from your experiences, and then have a different approach based on your perspective shift in the experience.
Yeah. And what it really is a process of evolution.
Right.
Yep. It's a process of evolution.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. I was just going to say, but that's it. It's transformation.
Yeah. I mean, because again, it's sometimes we look at our lives, most of the time we are accustomed to look at a life as a straight line, right? A beginning and an end, right? But our lives is really a spiral sequence that moves up or it stays the same. Yeah. Right.
Well, and that's when I guess I was alluding to that, as anybody who thinks that they can't pause and shift perspective, take from experience and then have a different approach, is definitely missing out on opportunities to grow and to evolve. Right. So, and I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I've gained out of it in my own personal life, because I think for a long time before I left the corporate world and
the education world,
the higher education and became an entrepreneur full time, it was that rat race that I was in, and it was really hard for me to shift my perspective. But what happens is, and we talk about this in our podcast shows and even with other people, is that what happens is life will throw you into a space or into a situation where you almost have no choice. Like you're going to either get forced to do it, or you can make the decision to do it. And I shared with my friend today that it's like either like a nervous breakdown. Like you're just like, this doesn't feel good.
Yeah,
I'm not feeling good, and something's got to shift.
Yeah,
and that was when I implemented the PEP framework.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of these things happen as a consequence of something radical that happens either externally or internally.
Yeah.
Right. Nobody goes willingly.
No.
Very rarely do you go willingly into exploring this aspect of yourselves, but it's like you adjust to life.
Yeah.
Right. And that's an important thing, because the goal is to be an active participant in life, not to withdraw
Right.
because it is uncertain and unknowing, is accepting the realities of it and then be able to adjust.
Yeah. I think that was the biggest shift for me is resisting, the path that way, in that direction of evolution, of transformation, of knowing that I could change my life if I implemented a few daily micro practices. And I think the beauty of what we're doing is that we're trying to share this philosophy with other people so that they can too experience what we have been experiencing and continue to experience, because life is like you said, it's a spiral. It keeps going, right?
So what in particular did this year bring out of you as you applied this? What in particular?
I would say that very much the idea that as I've been able to apply the PEP framework, since that's what we're talking about, for me, it's been a lot of really being in the moment and being able to having that awareness to step back and say, wait a second, what's going on here? Why am I looking at this as I'm not going to be able to do this, or I can't, or I don't know if I can, and asking other questions to broaden my perspective and my gaze at that situation. And as a result of that, it's opened up opportunities for me in just a few short months that would never have happened had I not shifted that perspective. And then I think that's been part of, if we're talking about this framework, which I think is really foundational, I think that's been the biggest thing for me, is because normally I would walk away from opportunities or shut them down because I was so zoned in to whatever it is that I wanted to happen. You know what I mean? Rather than allowing life to sort of unfold and accepting it for what it is, and thus getting all these opportunities that I've had over the last couple of months. That's been my thing. How about you?
I mean, personally, it's been, the last few years have been very, very challenging. Right. It's been a paradox, quite honestly. Because it's been extremely challenging in many aspects, from finances to career, through personal relationships. And that's been big challenges in those areas. But then also on the opposite side, it's been, I think, the one time in my life that I have been the most creative.
Oh yeah.
And that allows me, that I have driven into real creativity in terms of what things mean to me. Understanding why did I do what I did, what were the choices, what was the issues, the catalyst of making choices from that point of view.
Right.
Learning about that deep sense of wanting to belong, and then pivoting from that into something else, right? Being, I wouldn't say guided, but I'm so intrigued by the synchronicities that's happened, the things that have come, the people that have come, as a consequence of striving to clarify who I was, who I am, and what my point of expression is, right? So I think this year more than ever, it's been that idea of conceptualizing something,
right,
and developing your faculties to be able to actually bring it to life, right? Because when you create something abstract like the PEP framework of the Coherence Quest, something like that, it fills with doubt. It's filled with doubt. It's filled with the questionings, and then you go back, well, I've never done this before. Who are you to think about it like this? You don't have the degrees, you don't have all this stuff, but at the same token, you are working towards something that came to you, right? And so lately I've been really using that line from DMX, one of my favorite philosophers. If you don't see, then it wasn't meant for you to see. And if you weren't born with it, it wasn't meant for you to be. But you can't blame me for not want to be locked down in the cell. So like that.
Thought you were gonna keep going.
I could, but but the reality is that if you see something and it comes to you, I feel that I had the courage this year to be able to focus, to crystallize it, make it more vivid, make it more alive, and then be able to articulate it in a way that it makes sense, that I hope it makes sense, for those who want to hear, right? And that's one thing that this year kind of like represented. It was the paradox of facing all these very, very challenging parts. And again, finances, family, the solutions of relationships, questions about career, messaging, and all that stuff. And then having this new wave of creativity of being able to do something that is uniquely ours, right? And that comes with a lot of fear.
It does.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about how interesting when you talk about the dissolution of like family and friends and people and things that we thought were so stable, and there was a security surrounding those things in our lives, right? And how I mean, I don't really know where I'm going with this, but it's interesting how all this stuff has unfolded for us in our personal lives, and how really understanding our emotions and understanding where they come from, and then choosing to apply this framework that we have developed that isn't anything new. I mean, this is how we teach it.
This is how we understand it and
how we understand
it
and share it. Correct. And how drastically it has changed the way that we interact with each other and also with other people, and how we are, it's pretty interesting to me.
I mean, and again, it all happens in the span. It's all happened in the span of 1 year, which is very interesting when you start reflecting at how you start a year and with concepts and ideas, and as you progress and you focus on clarifying those things, you create a different possibility.
You create clarity.
Yeah.
You create this sense of feeling like, okay, I get it now. I understand. Like you have a different level or depth of understanding, I think, and it's not, when we're talking about this, we're not trying to introduce people to something that is like crazy. This is all scientifically backed information.
I mean, even with that, it's just observational.
Totally.
Yeah. It's like you look at life and life adjusts.
Yeah.
It's like a river. A river comes against something that it can't break. It finds the path of least resistance, right? And our goal in life is to flow more rather than be so rigid about. Right. And this is one of the biggest lessons that I've learned. And I'm continuing to make, now that I'm more conscious about it, right? That's the whole idea of PEP and the idea of philosophy. The way you look forward to it is understanding that in nature, nothing is rigid.
Right.
And we need to learn from that. And the situations happen and we have to adjust, but very seldom. And I know for over 40 years, we lived on those assumptions of things that were not correct because we didn't have that perspective.
Correct.
Yeah. So, so this is very good. But what we're going to do is that we're going to take a quick commercial break right now. And we want to, when we come back, we'll start talking about how this new perspective of the things that we learn has translated into our lives when it comes to our business, but also when it comes to the impact that we're trying to accomplish in the community. So please stay tuned. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the ASQ podcast, a transformational approach to life and leadership. Too many of us chase clarity but feel scattered. What if your challenge isn't failure, but the threshold before expansion? Each month, we gather live for a transformational webinar where contraction becomes coherence. Register today and receive your Soul GPS journal. Begin your journey within. Scan the QR code or visit asqempowerment.com.
At ASQ, we need one platform to do it all. Funnels, emails, forms, and automations. That's why we run our entire ecosystem on Go High Level. It is the tool that saves us time and builds real connections with our audience. We believe in it, we use it, and we recommend it. Start your free trial through our affiliate link today.
We don't just find podcast guests, we find aligned voices. That's why ASQ uses Podmatch to connect with leaders and creators worldwide. It's how we've built relationships that shape life and culture. If you want meaningful conversations, join through our affiliate link today or scan the QR code. Find your match on Podmatch.
Leaders are burning out. Teams are disengaged. Cultures are fragmenting. ASQ Empowerment transforms leadership and culture from the inside out. Our Coherence Quest bridges ancient wisdom with modern neuroscience, helping organizations align, adapt, and thrive. Start with an organizational snapshot assessment. So, visit now at asqempowerment.com and schedule your briefing today. ASQ Empowerment. Lead your life. Shape your culture. Begin within.
Welcome back. You're listening to the ASQ podcast with Dr. Jessie and Omar Ferreira, a transformational approach to life and leadership.
Yeah. Well, welcome back, everyone. Our slogan is lead your life, shape your culture, and begin within, right?
Is it? Just kidding.
Yes, it is. It is. And one of the things that is important to understand about the realizations and the evolution that we have as individuals, right? Has a ripple effect. Leadership is not this title, right? Leadership is not a title. It's an approach to how you live. Right. And that aspect of being coherent, which is one of the things that we use, coherence, is you being coherent as an individual. That translates into how you are coherent with your family, with your friends. How do you interact with your significant others or your kids and that, and because consequently in that micro relational part that affects the whole,
right?
It affects culture, right? And I want to make sure that people understand that when we talk about life, leading your life and shaping your culture, we shape our world, regardless whether or not we're conscious about it,
right.
Because you look at nature and let's say, I'm going to use a silly analogy, but think of a bear, right? A bear goes in the woods, runs, forges for berries and all that stuff. Yeah. And then as he
amongst other things, we
things,
watched a show the other night and the bear was wanting to eat somebody. Just saying.
It's polar bears. Polar bears are dangerous. They eat anything. But I digress, right?
Sorry.
So the bear eats berries in the woods, and as he goes throughout the woods and poops, right? It spreads the seeds, and it's the same thing with birds and all that stuff. So consciously or subconsciously, every action that we take has a ripple effect. And as insignificant as we may feel at times, right? Particularly around this time of a year, all of us have an effect. All of us have a way of us influence. This time of a year is one for peaks in loneliness, right? But when you become to understand who you are and finding that point of expression and living from there, the feelings of who you are can transform, but also the things that you impact transform. Most of it, you're not going to be aware of it, right? You don't know what the impact of your words, of your actions are going to have further down the line, right? And it's not that you have to be pretending or going out there or walking a particular way. But when you become coherent, you don't have to do any of that. You're just living your life,
right?
Like a bear or like a bird.
Yeah. That makes me think of Sean, who was a guest of ours on the live show, and the way that he is as a leader, because he's an individual who's very, very involved in what we represent and what we talk about in our curriculum. And, I do facilitation for him every month and so on and so forth. And he's a person that embodies that sense of leading from your essence with that coherence that we talk about. And you can see that not only in the way that he models how he leads his organization and how he shows up as a leader, but also we've heard from other people that work within his organization. And it's consistent that there is transparency, there's a vulnerability there, there's this authenticity that they have amongst each other, but that comes from the top, because if it didn't come from him, those other people would not be saying those things about that organization or be feeling that way. So that's the perfect example of what you're saying, because I think that oftentimes for example, moms, they don't think that they're leaders, but we are leading our homes.
You are,
right?
Definitely. Absolutely. That's
play a huge role.
That's the foundation of leadership.
And dads, same thing.
That, of course.
And I think that we take that for granted and we don't apply that alignment, that coherence that we're trying to make but get people to understand that you are impacting this individual with the way that you lead your life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And that's what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. The ripple effect, right? Yeah. And so this year, as we got more involved into the business aspect of what we do, how we're promoting leadership, how I work with men, you work with women, and meeting a lot of different people, culturally wise, we are fragmented. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a big fragmentation, the epidemic of loneliness, the epidemic of mental health, the epidemic of the turnover rate, and all these things that are experiences that heighten our anxiety, our levels of depression, the fear of the future, the uncertainty of it all. So one of the things that I've discovered and I realized is that in particular in the field of mental health and the things that I'm seeing, and this is not a criticism of it, it's just an observation, right? Is this idea of coping, right, with situations. And coping with situations, although they are skills that are important to understand, like we should evolve from that idea of coping to that idea of actually thriving. And this is just my humble opinion on the stuff, because it is okay to learn how to breathing practices and understand how to calm your biology, right? But if there are changes are not being done in environment wise, that you're just reacting to things, I mean, and I dare to I challenge anyone to correct me if we believe that trying to perpetuate the system that we have created is the best thing for all of us. I challenge that. I mean, I'm not saying that I have an answer, but if you have 61% of people feeling lonely, if you have 80% of suicides committed by men, if you have all these different challenges, if you have organizations with high turnover rate, if you have living expenses that are beyond the national average, and it doesn't matter if there's two families, people are struggling, and it's the right approach to our lives. Right. And the challenge is that systemically, and this is what the challenge, my observation as well, to try to challenge that systemically is an uphill battle. And the only way to change it is from the inside out. Correct. Right. For us to understand that it is up to us to show up differently, to create environments that if, this is one of the things that we advocate at. And this has always been the fight when it comes to capitalism and Marxism, that idea of capital and labor, right? It's that idea that if we create environments in which people thrive, right? That idea of not a shareholder, but a stakeholder,
right?
Challenging those things, people's lives will be much better. Companies could still thrive and succeed. So this is not really, an approach, but this year opened up my eyes to really to the fallacy of life.
Yeah.
How we're looking at life in a way that is, that makes you question, is this really the best approach? The way that we lead and the way that we have learned to lead, is this the proper approach to it?
Right. You just said that and it kind of put me back a little bit, because I'm like, yeah, it's interesting, because when I was working in the corporate world, a simple switch in perspective, which is what we're talking about, right, makes the difference for the culture of your organization, of your business, of your family, and just again, when we're talking about the individual, of ourselves, right, and how we show up. And when we talk about coping and stress levels and what do you call it? Reduce, what do you call it? Turnover rates and all these different things. We're not saying that there is a complete, like, one size fits all fixed solution, but at the end of the day, it starts with the individual.
Yeah, because individual makes choices.
And exactly. And then when you add that with other people who are doing the same thing, you have all the, it's like you said, it's a ripple, a domino effect, Yeah. And that, I think that's it really takes a lot of courage to step back and say, you know, so one of the questions that comes to my mind is, what do you say to somebody, to a leader who says, okay, that sounds like it's easier said than done?
Well, the idea is starts really, you know, I know that a lot of people at you know, at this day and age and adverse to social and emotional intelligence, SEL, right? But the first thing is, and this is not a new thing, this is an old thing, is know thyself.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Right.
Right. And again, one of the things why we're called the Soul's Quest, and I felt compelled to be able to find exactly what it means, right? And we'll talk about that in another episode, and we have talked about it in the past, is because we're not just our logic and our way of thinking.
Right.
We're not just our emotions. We are a very complex systems of drives, right? Emotion, intellect. And when all those things are aligned, right, we could become more aware of the things that we do so that we could evolve from that place rather than intellect. You know, if you look at the world is driven by intellect. But again,
that's not all that.
Again, look at the, you know, I'm not a data person, but look at the data. It's like people are feeling disconnected, right?
So, now more than ever.
Now more than ever, in a time and place in which logic should tell you, no, people should be more connected. We produce food at a higher rate than ever before, yet people still go hungry. They can't afford certain things.
Yeah.
You know, things are not, people's rights are taken away. And that's a logical person will be, a logical society that primarily focus on that will be able to see like, oh, what's going on here?
Right. What's going on? What's happening?
So then one of the things that I've learned, and I really dove into that, and we dove into exploring this idea of what drives us as human beings, and the foundation of the soul, right, is that idea of what Plato called the appetites, or the Kabbalah is called the desire drives, you know, and understanding the interplay within those mammalian aspects of who we are that are natural. You know, we need to be able to have power, because power allows us to have agency over ourselves. Power allows us to have control of our environment and be able to express ourselves, right? We need that idea of being okay to survive. It's foundational. This is like Maslow's foundation of the hierarchy of need, to be able to have our physiological needs met without stress. Right. Again, those things are there. But when things are in misalignment, particularly when it comes to power, it's one of those things that is very challenging to understand, because power is this idea of, again, the way that we teach it and the way that we share it is this idea of being able to have the capacity to express yourself, to have agency. But on the opposite end, because this is reality and you cannot walk away from the polarity of life, is you also have the Machiavellian mentality, right? There's a paradox in which those two things coexist. And it's hard to see, because we always think that, oh, it has to be one or the other. Those things work in a spectrum.
Right.
And the more we understand that and how we show up at work, right? Am I going to show up at work because I want to show my status, which most of us do? That's what leadership, you strive for the title, you strive for that. You know, we have experienced it in the things. So this year has been about conceptualizing that, investigating it, and then being able to see it. You know, so for me, when I go out there and I talk to young men and I talk to men and we talk that leadership stuff, we want to be able to normalize that paradox, right? Because it's the more you understand about the paradox, you know, the more you are able to manage it. Is, you know, I always tell, you said that I'm the teen whisperer, right? That I could talk to a teen like no problem, right? But it's very simple, right? What does a teen want? They want power.
They do.
They want agency. They want recognition. They want to be acknowledged.
They want to belong.
Right? They want to belong. And then what happens if a child starts making decisions, right? And this is why you sneak around, because you don't have a parent that understands to create a structure in which they could explore these things, right? Without fear. Right. And I understand, and as parents, we want to protect our kids. But the more we protect our kids, the more agency we're taking away.
Correct. I mean, we talk about it all the time. That's part of the ACEs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about that in the past. It's interesting because when I do my brewing leadership facilitation, I'm talking to a room full of high level, C-levels, administrators, CEOs, owners, and every single facilitation I've had multiple leaders come up to me and say, wow, like, this is amazing what you're talking. I've never even looked at leadership from this perspective, and have implemented some of these things into their organizations and the way that they lead and show up, not into their organization, but the way that they lead and they show up, and have said it's made a difference. Yeah. And that for me has been pivotal, because we've been doing that facilitation for this year, right? We started in March or April, I can't remember. And it's been amazing, you know? And for me, that's a reflection for me as in terms of like leaders and cultures and organizations. I think that's really powerful, you know?
Yeah. And one of the things, again, something else that I've recognized this year more than anything, and I've known this before for going through leadership trainings and, doing the GAP internship, which was all about leadership development. And so now Ashley brought that back. Oh yeah, I did that too. I forgot about that, but I did do that. I spent 2 years in the GAP internship program. Yeah. And one of the things and this is what I love the 1 Minute Manager so much as a template for management and leadership, is because it's not about tactics, right? And the way that people teach leadership is all about tactics, right? Yep. And tactics are important, but tactics without the philosophy behind it misses the point. It's like a goal without a value,
right?
Yeah. It's like, because I want to, and this is one of the things that you see, I want to be rich. Okay, what does that cover? What is the value that having money have? Okay, well, I just want to have money. Well, you want money either because you want status, because you want security, because you want freedom. Right. You don't want money just because you want money. Because if I want to be a billionaire. Why? Because if I'm a billionaire, people notice me. I get the recognition that I must get, that this person gets, that. But you see what I'm saying? It's like a lot of leadership training, it's all about the tactics. It's all about the tactics. But the philosophy of leadership, it's really about understanding yourself, and then consequently allowing people to work from that same point for a collective objective. Right. And some people fit within your objective. Other people do not fit. In either case, it's okay. But that separation does have to be broad.
Right.
But it requires a lot of vulnerability.
It does.
It requires the vulnerability to be able to say, to know yourself. But it's not vulnerability once you truly understand the paradox that you have this polar opposites energy, right? And some of them tend to hurt people and some of them tend to be loving, but you can't be too loving and you can't be too aggressive. You got to find the balance, right?
Yeah.
It's like, that's a polarity. And listen, this is a Kabbalah 101. It's about the middle pillar. It's the narrow path. It's just all there. The only reason what we have done is catalyzed it and structure it in a way that makes
more practical.
That is practical,
to make sense.
But also that is not about, and this is this is something else that I've learned. It's like, I don't want to do like spiritual bypassing, because, there's an aspect of spirituality in which you want to be absent from the world. And that's not what spirituality is. It's active participation in the sorrows of life. That's what it is. That's what spirituality is. Active participation, to grow and to learn, to find your point on expression from the universal perspective in the here and now, in this time, because this is the only time in which you will ever be in existence again. So our response is to the universe, and we respond to what happens around us. But most of the time we're subconscious about it.
Right.
Most of the time we don't even know.
No.
Right. And the idea is to be able to understand that. So yes, throughout this year, as I reflected on things, that's one of the things that I really learned. And as you could see, there's been a lot of study, a lot of sleepless night, just reading and experimenting and looking.
It's definitely not been, it's been a challenging year to really, like you said, concretize what it is that we're trying to teach and to model that, and to be able to share it, not just from, theoretical or theory or whatever, but from lived experience, and to share that with people. That's been humbling. It's been a lot of exposure. It's been, but I would say that it's probably been one of the best years of my life, in for 53 years. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been good just because I've learned so much more about myself over the past year, that it's easier to say that, when I was doing this, I came from this sense of wanting power, exercising power, or whatever, which is not an easy thing to say. And it's not that I'm better than anybody else. It's just that I wanted to understand what is this that I'm feeling? How do I want to show up? Why are things not opening up for me? All these different things. And it's all of the methodologies that we teach at ASQ, which is a beautiful thing. So
that was actually well put. It's I like that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Awesome.
If we can drop the mic, I will.
No. Don't be messing this up. All right, everybody. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
You're listening to the ASQ podcast, a transformational approach to life and leadership. Coming this December, A Soul's Quest, a transformational approach to life and leadership. A book that bridges science, wisdom, and lived experience so you can lead with coherence. Don't miss the launch. Join the waiting list today, scan the QR code, or visit asqempowerment.com.
At ASQ, we believe every creative deserves a safe space to share. That's why we use and proudly recommend Gnostic TV. It's where your content won't be silenced and your vision can flourish. Sign up through our affiliate link and be part of this Freedom Center platform. Create boldly on Gnostic TV. Across boardrooms, nonprofits, and communities, too many leaders are quietly burning out. They know what's not working, but not how to turn inertia into momentum. That's where I come in. I help leaders, fathers, and organizations move from quiet crisis into coherence, so cultures can thrive from the inside out. Book me today at asqempowerment.com and bring coherence to your next event.
Welcome back. You're listening to the ASQ podcast with Dr. Jessie and Omar Ferreira, a transformational approach to life and leadership.
I really love our music.
One good thing about music, when you hit it, you feel no pain.
Okay.
That's right.
I love you're really good about the whole referring to movies and memorizing all these. That's interesting. Anyway.
I don't know. It's a mystery.
Thank you for joining us again. We talked about a lot, a big recap, a lot of things going on for us.
A lot of things we've learned, a lot of growth, a lot of acknowledgement. Yeah.
Yes. A lot of good stuff. And so I know that we're going to talk about this in our next live too, because, so I don't want to give out too much, but I do want to kind of talk about and look forward into the new year. Like, what kind of things do we have going on for ASQ?
Yeah, we have quite a few things. I mean, the first thing that we'll be launching at the beginning of the year, two things actually that go hand in hand. And the first thing is A Soul's Quest, a transformational approach to life and leadership book. Is a book that's been coming together for years and years and years of experiences and things like that. And it's a catalyst to understanding really our methodology when it comes to ASQ. So that will be coming out in January. We've been pushing it back because as we've learned and as we evolved, we want to make sure that the concepts were clear and understandable from the standpoint of being there. In conjunction with that, we are also launching our Coherence membership. And it is a monthly membership service that focuses on a couple of things. Number one, it's an 80-20% mix of instruction, 20%, and practice, 80%. And the reason why is because to be able to develop all these different faculties that are innate within us, it requires taking the time to sit quietly in your sacred space, giving yourself that freedom to explore, to discover more of who you are. And these memberships allow you the flexibility to be able to do that. But one of the things, actually, in addition to that, we'll continue to be working with businesses to develop coherence from the standpoint of strategic planning, operational balance. And, as you guys met Fred and Mike and Mac is on the back end. And that idea is to be able to bring the philosophy of ASQ, the methodology of ASQ, not just from the leadership standpoint, but from all aspects of business and nonprofits, so that you could streamline your operations and actually live a more coherent.
That's right.
But the most important thing, one of the ones,
they're all important.
They're all important. But one of the things that we will really be working on, again, is we just launched the pilot of our first Coherence Masterclass, and we are actually about to finish that. We just finished, actually, by the time of this recording, we have finished that class, right? And the idea behind it is to be able to allow individuals the opportunity to really hone in on what we're talking about, right? And the goal of that Coherence Masterclass is to be able to understand practically how to create your sacred space. Number one. Number two, how to apply the PEP framework in all aspects of your life. And then three, to be able to understand what the soul is. And the analogy or the method that we use, it is the soul is the coherence vehicle, right? And our soul has 8 engines, 2 systems, right? A dashboard, a command center, and the conscious driver. And I'm not going to go into much in detail because that's kind of the things that we learned. But the idea is the analogy of the soul is an idea. It's a word, it's a concept, and concepts involved, right? And it is important to bring this idea, the deeper understanding of what it is, a practical understanding of what the soul really is, which is not this dogmatic idea or this theologist idea. It's like something that is practical, because it encompasses all aspects of what it is to be a human being. Right. And the more you understand that, and the more you begin to apply, the principles of polarity and things in it, the more you will live a life that you allow yourself to evolve. I'm not saying that it's going to be perfect, and that's not the point of escapism. The idea is when you understand this, you will follow what the Buddha said, all life is suffering, and freedom comes from not attachment to that suffering, right? And that's the path of coherence. Be able to understand that this is kind of like life, but when you have the different perspective, it's different. So the cohort would be taking place starting the week of January 12th. You could visit our website at asqempowerment.com. You search for the membership, and then you'll be able to look at some of the stuff that we have going on in there. And also, because we have limited spots, we only are doing 2 groups for a quarter of the year, 10 weeks, 8 individuals max each. And we do have to vet you, so you have to go through an application process, because again, what we do is not therapy.
And we need to be vetted. Yes. It has to be a fit.
It has to be a fit, yeah. And one of the things that I tell, this is not therapy, this is not coaching. We are guides. And I encourage everyone, if you feel the need I encourage therapy. I encourage seeing your doctor and things of those nature. We are not those things. So I want to make sure that people understand. We are guides. We have walked this path. We have learned along this path. And our intention is to share it and guide through those things, to hold the lamp, because somebody held the lamp for us.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. That's a good point. That's a good way to end it.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
No, that's it.
That's a lot.
Yeah. We have a lot. There was a lot going on this year, but it was a lot of great things. So I'm very thankful and grateful for the universe, challenging us and pushing us in the directions that we didn't want to. We did a kicking and screaming sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. But we have to learn to follow the path of least resistance and see where everything leads. So with that said, we want to thank everybody for joining us today on this special episode of the ASQ podcast. And remember to
lead your life,
shape your culture, and begin within. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the ASQ podcast. Remember to lead your life, shape your culture, begin within. Visit us at asqempowerment.com and join the movement.